Welcome to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, keeping you connected to your faith and your world. Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness. And now, here's Teresa Tomeo.
Happy Friday. It's October 31st. It is the eve of All Saints' Day, All Hallows' Eve, or Halloween, more commonly known in the secular world. Great to be with you, wrapping up the month of October. Can you believe it? Moving into a very important weekend faith-wise, All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day. Hope you're having a great weekend so far, even though it's early in the weekend. We have a great lineup for you this morning. Of course, it's a Friday. That means Doug Keck is joining us right after the news and the weather and all that good stuff. With the Inside Word at EWTN, he will fill us in on how we can watch, of course, the big event tomorrow at the Vatican. We talked about that yesterday with Father Mitch Pacwa. We have John Henry Newman, who's going to be named a doctor of the church. Very exciting indeed, and we'll be there. He'll give us all the details. Fact Check Friday, the Pope gave a beautiful talk to young people in terms of not allowing the media to take advantage of you. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. We'll have a story in the news, but it's just beautiful. I think it's super important to look at what's happening with young people in the media. We'll have some statistics on that as well. And then Cindy Morales, who's a longtime pro-life activist and advocate, is going to be joining us live at 39 minutes past the hour. An exciting new series documentary on EWTN produced by Pro-Life Champions, and it's called Fake Clinics. And it airs tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time and Monday at 11:30 a.m. Will re-air on Monday at 11:30 a.m. This is super important because if you can remember, and they still are claiming this, which is completely false, but the attacks on crisis pregnancy centers, and we're not only talking about the physical attacks, but also the verbal attacks and the misinformation campaigns that are often launched against these amazing centers, claiming that there's nothing medical about them. And yet most, if not, I wouldn't say all, but probably would say pretty much most of these clinics now, the pregnancy resource centers, have doctors on hand, have nurses on hand, and they have an opportunity for women to get ultrasound and to get the help that they need. So Cindy Morales dives into this deeply, looks at the criticism, and then, of course, picks it apart piece by piece and does an excellent job in doing so. We have a trailer we'll play for you as well. So that's the first hour of the program, and looking forward to that, Doug Keck and Cindy Morales, and taking a closer look at the Holy Father's words regarding young people and the media and getting their messages across about Jesus and the one holy Catholic and Apostolic faith. I did want to mention something kind of fun. Today, of course, Halloween, people are celebrating, and it's good to have good, clean family fun. And we're doing that in our little village in central Italy. They are having a Halloween party. And what I love about it is here in Italy, for whatever reason, I think it's great. They don't push the seasons, and you really didn't see anything Halloween-wise, decoration-wise, until the beginning of October. I'm not kidding you. You couldn't find anything in the stores, which is fine with me. And they don't do all the ghouls and the goblins and all the dark stuff. It really is just, fall leaves and pumpkins and scarecrows. There's a few things, maybe some skeletons, but not the real ghoulish stuff that you see so much in the United States of America, and the dark, evil messaging that they put out there with dragons and witches and everything that is just really, not wholesome. They do mainly, again, colorful fall themes. And for our little party tonight, now keep in mind this village that we live in is a walled village, very tiny. It's in central Italy, only has about 150 people within the walls. Now, there's a few lovely little apartment complexes around and some different areas where people live, independent houses. So I'd say in our area, maybe 300 people, but they're having trick-or-treating for the kids door to door, and that starts at 6:30 Rome time. And then they're having food in the piazza, in our little piazza in front of the church. And then I'm so excited because I love to dance and I never get to dance. They're having a DJ. And so they're having some fun things for the adults, and they'll have some wine available, but it's very family friendly. And they'll have a wonderful buffet that is going to be provided by some local restaurants and the B&Bs in our area. A delicious light dinner with some torta al testo, which is the bread from this region in Umbria. And it's just a really nice get-together with the local people. And the church is very involved in this and is keeping a handle on it. And when they first, several years ago, this is what I found out from my fellow village residents that speak English, they were telling me that the church was somewhat skeptical. The local priests were skeptical about having a Halloween party because they didn't want it to go all dark like it is in the United States. And so they said, okay, you can do this as long as you keep it family friendly and as long as the church is involved. So I'm like, that is amazing. And so we're looking forward to that this evening. Now, next week, we are going to be taping our second series on the Saints for EWTN's Mission Advancement Learn series. So the lovely and the extraordinary Vanessa Denhagarmo will be filling in for me. I will have a special edition of Catholic Connection. I think that's going to be on Wednesday. But Vanessa will be filling in. I'm going to try to call in during the week. We're going to some really cool places. This second series is all about St. Francis, and we're going to unknown places, really, in the life of St. Francis where people don't really visit or know much about. So we're going to Gubbio, a couple different places in Gubbio. We're going to the lovely town of Spoleto, and we're even hitting a few spots in Assisi, with which a lot of people may not be familiar. And then we're also going to Greccio, which is the Christmas town. And that is something that people often speed by on the freeway as they're heading up to Assisi, and they miss. So we're going to have a lot of fun, and we'll keep you posted as to when this series will be available. But you can still sign up for the Saints in Italy series, the first part, by simply going to EWTN.com/Saints in Italy. Let's take a look at your forecast right now and see what's happening weather-wise across the country. We have gusty winds expected from portions of the mid-Atlantic into the northeast, and that is through tonight following the system that brought rain to the area. We have an atmospheric river that will move into the northwest. That'll happen later today and continue into tomorrow, bringing moderate to heavy rainfall, mountain snow, windy conditions, and high surf to the areas over the weekend. And I'll tell you what, the East Coast got hit really badly with some heavy rains. We'll have an update on that for you as well. It's a Friday morning. We appreciate your listenership here on EWTN Radio. Let's begin with the news. It is 6 minutes past the hour on a Friday. Well, this story is breaking this morning. It's just in. FBI Director Kash Patel saying a potential terror attack has been thwarted. In a post on X this morning, he said multiple suspects have been arrested in Michigan who are allegedly plotting a violent attack over the Halloween weekend. In other news this morning, Jamaica is still making headlines. Relief flights are arriving in Kingston, Montego Bay, and St. Mary, with American Airlines sending two 737s from Miami to Kingston today, carrying team members and relief supplies, and they're also bringing back customers wanting to get off the island. Consul General of Jamaica, Oliver Mayer, says some items were pre-positioned.
We're going to need help, cash donations, to be able to buy building materials, building supplies, to repair the roofs, or to rebuild back total homes if necessary.
Food for the Poor had 250 disaster kits on the ground in 12 of 14 parishes. Global Empowerment Mission also were there early on. And with dozens of deaths blamed on Hurricane Melissa in the Caribbean, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is saying the U.S. is preparing to help. He says the administration is in close contact with governments in the region with rescue and response teams at the ready, along with critical life-saving supplies. He also specifically mentioned Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, the Bahamas, and Haiti, where most of the deaths have been reported. Rubio, whose parents immigrated to the U.S. from Cuba, said storm relief to that island should be coordinated through non-governmental organizations. And Orlando attorney Dan Newland, who was flying at least 3 plane loads of supplies to Kingston with the help of reggae artist Shaggy, he joins the flight in Miami. Newland tells a local TV station, and there could be even more flights to come.
If the people are saying, Dan, can you bring more? Can you get more stuff? Then we will fly up, load up, and continue to make flights down.
This isn't the first time he's partnered with the reggae star to help children's hospitals in Jamaica, and he also plans to fly standard American tourists there as well. Now, the weather is still making headlines on the East Coast, as we mentioned, with the report from the National Weather Service. We have flash floods becoming real-world realities across New York City and around the tri-state area, thanks to yesterday's rainmaker of a storm.
Boonton, New Jersey got 3 inches of rain Thursday afternoon. Parts of New York City got an inch of rain just between 3 and 4 p.m. That caused flooding in basements, killing at least 2 in the city, as well as flooded subway and train lines and streets. FDNY had to rescue a woman from her flooded car in Carroll Gardens, Queens. 2 feet of flooding was reported at a school in the Riverdale section of the Bronx. Parts of Westchester were also hard hit.
That's Andrew Whitman reporting from New York City. Continuing the week-long series of events of the Jubilee of the World of Education, the Holy Father, and we'll talk more about this at the bottom of the hour in our Fact Check Friday, meeting with students in the Paul VI Audience Hall yesterday. He began the address by expressing his joy and anticipation for the event as it reminded him of the time he spent teaching math to young students. The Pope first recalling the example of the recently canonized Italian student Pier Giorgio Frassati and two of his mottos. To live without faith, I have that quote in my office, by the way, I love this quote. To live without faith is not living, but simply getting along. And, of course, the well-known To the Heights. Pope Leo then adding his own encouragement to the young students. He says, have the courage to live life to the fullest, stressing they should not settle for fads, appearances, or fleeting pleasures. Rather, the Holy Father added, he challenged them to long for something greater. He said this is a desire of young people who hope and plan for a better society, therefore urging them to strive toward the heights as a beacon of hope. Academy District 20 in Colorado Springs has reversed course and will now allow a high school student there, a senior, to include a religious design in her reserved parking space. Sophia Shoemaker threatened legal action after her artwork featuring a shepherd, sheep, and a Bible verse was rejected under old district rules.
No one explained to me why religious imagery wasn't allowed. Christianity and religion is just basically my whole personality, and I just kind of felt left out.
The district has since updated its policy to permit religious messaging, saying the change ensures fairness across all schools. Shoemaker's attorneys argued the original decision violated her constitutional rights to free speech and religious expression. The Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, launching an initiative to combat Christian persecution domestically and abroad. Catholic News Agency reports as the subject at the heart of its latest summit in the nation's capital. They hosted a summit on ending Christian persecution at the Kennedy Center yesterday. It was part of a wider effort to collaborate with its coalition partners to raise awareness and identity policy solutions to religious targeting of Christians. As Catholics, we are all called to help the most in need and those who are facing persecution here and across the globe. That's according to Mercedes Schlapp, who's a senior fellow, telling CNA, CPAC and our coalition partners have made it a priority to start the CPAC Center for Faith and Liberty, committed to finding policy solutions, working with national and international leaders to bring awareness to the atrocities that we are seeing against our Christian brothers. And she added, we hope to continue this fight and really provide protection and solutions to those persecuted Christians and to those who have died as martyrs and to bring peace to our world. And again, more on that story at CatholicNewsAgency.com. Vice President J.D. Vance says more delays and issues at airports will happen if the government remains shut down. Speaking outside the White House yesterday, he said he's concerned about vital workers such as air traffic controllers missing paychecks and losing them to possibly another industry.
I worry about the people who are scanning our bags and making us get through the security line. I worry they're not getting paychecks. They're starting to get worried about how to feed their families and how to pay school tuition and everything else.
The vice president calling on Democrats to come to the table to end the shutdown. He said Republicans are ready to negotiate on any issue Democrats are concerned about. The shutdown in day 31, his comments come just as the FAA issued a ground delay at Reagan National Airport in D.C. yesterday due to staffing shortages as lawmakers attempted to fly out for the weekend. And the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is rejecting Governor Pritzker from Illinois, his request to suspend federal immigration enforcement operations in the Chicago area over the holiday weekend coming up. She said they aren't pausing any work they do to keep communities safe.
The fact that Governor Pritzker is asking for that is shameful. And I think unfortunate that he doesn't recognize how important the work is that we do to make sure we're bringing criminals to justice.
That's a look at the news on a Friday morning, October 31st. We'll be right back to let you know what's coming up on EWTN. You don't want to miss it. Great stuff coming up as always right here on EWTN that you don't want to miss, which is why we have Doug Keck, our President Emeritus, on with us every Friday with the Inside Word at EWTN. Hey, Doug, how are you?
Good to be back with you.
Same here. So I'm interviewing Cindy Morales, who's coming up at about 39 minutes past the hour. And there's a new documentary all about quote-unquote fake clinics, looking at how pregnancy centers are criticized. So that sounds really good.
Right, exactly. Goes right at the accusation that they like to, hurl at these, life-saving pro-life clinics that offer women real opportunities. You know, they don't force anybody to do anything. But Her Choice that Jim and Joy Pinto are involved with here is a perfect example. And people come in all the time, and they are looking for abortions. And, you know, they try and talk to them and say, you know, this is what's really going on. And they can turn some people around, but some people decide to do it anyway. And but at least it's an informed choice. It may be a wrong choice and a horrible choice, but it's an informed choice. Different than what they'd get if they wandered into the Planned Parenthood locale or something of equal repute.
Yeah, it's always projection, isn't it? They accuse us of exactly what they're doing.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, they don't care about the truth. They care about getting what they want, and what they want is to make some money, along with the fact that many of the people who are promoting these things have gone down the same path and want to pull other people in the same direction. And for other people to say that there's something wrong with that puts them on the spot.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for Cindy. She does such great pro-life work, so she'll be joining us. And of course,
that'll be airing at 10:30 p.m. tonight. And then also on November 3rd as well. So on Monday, it'll be airing at 11:30 a.m. in the morning. So you'll get a couple of chances to see it. I'm sure it'll ultimately end up most likely on our on-demand platform down the road. So
great. What else is coming up in the next couple of days?
Well, another one I talk about today is all new, is Thomas More, the trial and death of a leading citizen. Of course, St. Thomas More, I think most of us are familiar with his story, so this focuses on his trial. It's airing at 4 p.m. Today, and that is airing on the 25th anniversary when St. Thomas More was declared patron of statesmen and politicians. And, of course, that rolls right into what's happening on Saturday, basically at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Holy Mass and Proclamation of St. John Henry Newman as a doctor of the Church, coming from St. Peter's Basilica. That'll be airing at 5:30 a.m., like I said, and then we'll encore it at 4 p.m. So if you missed the live event, you can still catch it. We've also got with this weekend, of course, you've got All Saints Day and All Souls Day. So we got the Solemn Mass of All Saints happening, of course, at noon on Saturday from the Basilica, 12:10 actually. And then there's actually the Day of the Dead event that we do out of San Fernando Mission as well. That'll be airing on a tape delay at 3 p.m. Eastern Time as well on Saturday. We've also got our St. Martin de Porres movie tomorrow night. Always a popular thing to have that movie on the saint. And then we've got the All Souls commemoration happening as well. And this comes from the Verano Cemetery in Rome, presided over by Pope Leo XIV. That'll be at 10 a.m. on Eastern Time on the 2nd, which is on, of course, Sunday. We've also got a wonderful program we've aired a couple of times, St. Joseph, patron of a happy death, and we've got our own Father Joseph talking about that. So that's a really nice program, and we air it every year. We got Saints and Scoundrels, new episodes as Kateri Tekakwitha takes on Margaret Mead. That should be interesting. We've got choral concert from the commemoration of All Souls as well, coming from the Basilica in Washington on Sunday at 11 p.m. And we've got Defenders of the Faith. Next week, we've got Faith in the Heartland. This is another one, Father Joseph. Those Father Joseph fans, make note. Airing next week, we're going to have an update on his Faith in the Heartland. Remember that series he did a number of years ago when he kind of went back to his Iowa roots, and it was very popular program. And then next week on EWTN Live, Father Wayne Sattler will be on. So check that out. Check out all of EWTN's programming. Find out more about it at EWTN.com. There's so much we can't even fit it in and talk about it.
It's crazy.
It's overflowing on a regular basis onto our expanding YouTube network and also onto our expanding on-demand platform. And also don't forget about those radio podcasts and the audio podcasts with Podcast Central.
I was wondering if your ears are ringing in a good way. The other day I taped an extended interview with our mutual friend, Father Robert Spitzer. He has this new Magis AI, this new app. So cool. And Doug, I think I asked him maybe 2 questions, and he just went on in such great detail. It's just like, he's amazing. But it was just so interesting. And I plugged, of course, Father Spitzer's Universe, because I love that show that you do with him. But again, he's just one of those incredible resources that we have and that we utilize, I think, quite well at EWTN.
Absolutely. And I told them the other day when we did an episode of the Catholic Sphere on having to do with, we did a follow-up on Tim Kaine's immortal statement about how we don't get our rights from God, we get it from the state, heaven forbid. And we did a program on that that'll be airing in the next month. And I told them, prepping for it, I went to Magis AI and, just asked a couple of quick questions and got a lot of great information. That was great background for that. And I told them on the air when we just did the show the other day how helpful it was. So I highly recommend anybody go and check it out, especially because it's incredibly simple. It's not complicated. There's not a lot of pages and layers or platforms to get through to ask the question. You go there and it's right there, and it's very simple, and anybody can use it.
What was really interesting is he said that you could ask the app or tell the app that you want, let's say, a 5th grade version, which I would find very helpful because I would.
Right. Well, I was asking him, when is he going to help me out with the 3rd grade version? But he said, Doug's, you have to try a little harder. So I understand.
No, but his books are a big part of the resources that we use for
Absolutely.
the app.
Well, what the thing was, and a lot of people asked that question, which is to say, well, the concern with AI is garbage in, garbage out, like any other computer-oriented thing, which is it's only as smart as what it's been told information is. And his point was, well, we've got a walled garden where really all the information it's pulling from is basically his source material and other material that he has approved or looked at and said, yes, this is correct. And so you're really in a position where you can be 99.9% sure. There's always something, that's the way it works in life, that the information you're getting is the best information out there. And if it's not, you can update it. Somebody actually wrote us on the show the other day about the fact that they had asked about some information about the miracles that were used for John the 23rd and Paul the 6th canonization, and it kind of gave it some vague information, it wasn't clear and whatever. And that's not exactly true. There's more information, and Father Spitzer said, yeah, we'll go take a look at that and make sure we can update that. So if people are using it and finding things that they think might be missing or could be additive, it's not that there was anything wrong, it's just that there might have been additional information that could be added. But again, he wants to take it slow and make sure that the information you can trust.
Are you going to be talking about this on Father Spitzer's Universe with him in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We did a whole show at the beginning of a show a couple of weeks ago talking about it coming and what it was.
Oh, good.
And on the last show we also talked a little bit about, and again, that question was asked, and we talked about, and I told them about the Catholic Sphere as well. So, yes, and actually there's a voice version that will be coming. The non-voice one is free. The other one, because it does cost money to make it happen, will be available, and it will have the one and only Father Spitzer's voice on it, believe it or not. And so it should be interesting. That will cost some amount of money per month. I don't think it'll be a large amount, but I'm not sure what it is. It's not quite ready yet. Probably, I think no later than by the end of the year, that should be available.
You know what's great, though, is that he's vetted everything like 10 times over. Very similar to what we do at EWTN. We don't let anything slip through the cracks. It's got to be vetted. Every author, every interview that we do, people have to have the proper background and be in good standing with the church. But also, if you think about it, Richard and I, my producer, were talking about this with the holidays coming up and how often we get challenged by maybe friends and visitors. It's a great resource to have. If people have a question, you can calmly say, well, let's go to the app. Let's see what the app says. And it's really super helpful, right?
And that's the idea. If somebody asks you a question, you don't know the answer, go and go ask the app to give you that backup information. Like you said, the God particle or something simpler like, Lord, Christmas really isn't Christmas, etc. So it's a wonderful resource, just like EWTN and EWTN Radio.
Amen. EWTN.com. Doug Keck. We'll be right back on a Friday. Stay tuned. "27 minutes past the hour. Hope your Friday is going well. Last day of October, October 31st. Eve of All Saints Day, Sunday All Souls Day. Make it a great weekend and stay tuned to all the special programming, as Doug Keck just mentioned, right here on EWTN, both radio and TV. In this segment, we talk about media, Fact Check Friday, and really appreciated the Pope's message to the young people. This is super important because so many young people, and one of the reasons why Father Spitzer wanted to do that Magis app, which we'll be talking about with him next week. As a matter of fact, we recorded a special interview with him just recently. But this whole idea of people getting, especially young people, getting so pulled away from reality and the truth, especially the truth about God, with social media, with AI, with so much out there, they're overwhelmed. And so the Pope sat down and talked with them just yesterday. So I just want to share some of his comments. We did have a news story on it, but I want to build on it a little bit. In prepared remarks consigned to members of the International Youth Advisory Body, Pope Leo encouraged young people to focus on the synodality mission and participation in order to counter isolation. He said, be close to Christ and help the church reach out to those on the margins. And on Friday, today actually spoke to them extemporaneously, a body linked to the Dicastery for the Laity, the Family and Life, aiming to bring the perspective of young people to the Holy See on various issues central to the Church's mission. Now, since Tuesday, this organization has a meeting in Rome to reflect on topics that affect young Catholics with the three themes of synodality, mission, and taking part as a focus of their discussions. In his prepared remarks, the Holy Father writes to the members of this group, you represent many of your own peers, and through you they can also speak to the Church. He assured them your voice is heard and taken seriously. Your presence and contribution are invaluable. Now, he talked about being in the social media age and encouraged them, and this is super important, not to live your faith in isolation. He says, we encourage you not to live in that isolation, especially in social media and in the digital age. He recognized that in recent years, many young people have approached their faith through social media, successful programs, and popular online Christian witnesses. However, he warned that the danger with this is that a faith discovered online, and this is a really, really good point, is limited to individual experiences which may be intellectually and emotionally reassuring, but are never embodied. This means it remains detached from the ecclesial body and not lived alongside others in real-life situations, relationships, or sharing. He added, all too often, social media algorithms merely create a sounding board for individuals picking up on personal preferences and tastes and sending them back, magnified and enriched with appealing proposals. Yet everyone remains alone with themselves, prisoners of their own inclinations and projections. For the Pope, the antidote to this danger can be, he says, experience of lived synodality, which helps overcome the barriers of the self and encourage young people to become effective members of the family of Jesus Christ. The Pope also pointed out that young people in the Church are also called to speak on behalf of their peers, especially the weak, the poor, and the lonely, refugees, and those who struggle to integrate into society or to access educational opportunities. All too often, he added, these voices are drowned out by the noise of the powerful, the successful, and those who live in exclusive realities. He said the Church wants to listen to what the Holy Spirit says to young people and welcome their charisms, the gifts that are specific to their age and their sensibilities. He says, in the image of the Holy Trinity, the Church is also a communion of persons, of the faithful of every age, language, and nationality who journey together, enriching one another and sharing their spiritual gifts. The Pope then highlighted how we need to be guided by the Holy Spirit, and thus it leads to mission. He said it's not a question of the rules governing meetings. Instead, it's about making room for God's action by listening to the Holy Spirit, adding that the Holy Spirit always leads to Jesus, who is truth. And he added, in order to discern in every age how to bring the gospel to everyone, he encouraged the young people to have open hearts, ready to listen both to the inspirations of the Spirit and deep aspirations of each person. He said, and this is a very, very good point, you must look beyond appearances in order to seek the true answers that give meaning to life. You must have hearts that are open to God's call and not engrossed in your own plans, and are willing to understand and sympathize before forming judgments. The concept of mission, he said, also entails freedom from fear, because the Lord loves to call us to forge new paths. He continued, urging young people to be leaders of creativity and courage. And this is a beautiful talk built on what he said yesterday to the young people about using, for example, now St. Pier Giorgio Frassati as an example. Now, we're talking about social media here and a lot of misinformation and a lot of appearances that people can see, especially young people, that can maybe isolate them, but also give them the wrong idea about the church. And this is what happened a great deal in the pro-life movement, unfortunately, or I should say the secular world regarding the pro-life movement, where misinformation has become king. That's why I wanted to play, in light of what the Pope's talking about, and in light of our next interview coming up after the break with Cynthia Morales, I wanted to share with you the trailer to this beautiful documentary that's airing tonight and Monday on EWTN, where many, many people in the pregnancy resource area of pro-life have been falsely accused of running fake clinics. Take a listen.
We're the post-row generation, and we will abolish abortion!
New tonight, 2 opposing rallies on the Boston Common today reflecting the national debate over abortion rights.
In this extraordinary moment, we must do everything we can to ensure that patients get the health care and reproductive services that they need. And that includes protecting patients from the deceptive practices of some so-called crisis pregnancy centers.
We as Christians feel like it's something that we're supposed to do as Christians to help women in unplanned pregnancy situations. We can go buy a bag of diapers for a mama. We can give her a free ultrasound. We can give her some prenatal vitamins. We can have nurses speak with her.
The threat is very real, according to attorneys, but let's take a look at this map that exposes alleged fake clinics. Every single one of these red dots across the nation represents one of them, hundreds, if not thousands.
Most have no doctors, no nurses, and offer no medical care.
Well, I've been a nurse for 45 years with a bachelor's of science in nursing and biology, and then I went on to get a master's in education.
Remember what they're doing. They're putting their crisis pregnancy centers next door to abortion rights centers, and they're directing people to go in their front door or telling them things that aren't true often. And when that's the case, they ought to be held liable.
When I came across Pregnancy Help Center, my boyfriend at the time said it's a trap. He said that they are going to trick you, it's not real. And when I walked in there, it was the complete opposite. Being at the Pregnancy Help Center has made such a huge impact on me and Jamie's life.
No one has ever lied to me. It's nothing but love, smiles, encouragement. They back me, they support me.
An amazing documentary that'll be airing tonight and Monday. Cynthia Morales will be with us to explain, and this ties directly into what the Holy Father is talking about with young people in terms of media, that they should not settle for fads, appearances, fleeting pleasures, or misinformation, which has happened so much in the secular culture, especially with the secular media and the pro-life movement. The Holy Father challenging young people to long for something greater, starting with and focusing on the truth, as in truth with a capital T, Jesus Christ and their Catholic faith. We'll be right back. Okay, so I'm totally freaking out about how time is flying by. So Cynthia Morales and I go way back. I met her actually before she married my good friend and fellow broadcaster, John Morales. And John was a sports reporter in Detroit. That's where John and I met. Then he went on to work, of course, in Catholic radio, where he still is, and married the lovely Cynthia, and they adopted Joseph. And you're telling me now that he's going to college, actually. I can't even believe it, Cynthia. My goodness, time flies, right?
It does.
Wow. Well, congratulations. And congratulations on all the great work you're doing. It's wonderful. You have another documentary. This one, I think, the other one was great too, but this one is near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure John's heart as well as a media person, because the secular media and the culture, especially some of these politicians whom you feature in this documentary, the mini documentary, just basically lie about Pregnancy Help Center. So tell us about fake clinics, this documentary airing tonight and Monday on EWTN.
Okay, and then after that, it's going to be available on demand too, by the way.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome.
So after the Dobbs decision came down, I noticed a huge uptick in attacks on pregnancy resource centers by legislators. Now, calling pregnancy resource centers fake clinics is nothing new. Pro-abortion activists have been doing that for a long time. But once Dobbs came down, the establishment Democrats and other pro-choice legislators, they kind of freaked out, and they really ramped up their attacks. Although I have to say, there were actually attacks before Dobbs too. So the kinds of legislation that are attacking pregnancy help centers have to do mostly with misinformation. The bill that Elizabeth Warren introduced right after Dobbs at the federal level, I always get the name of it mixed up. I think it's called Stop Anti-Abortion Misinformation or something like that. It was not passed. It did not pass. But it basically accused pregnancy resource centers or pregnancy help centers of lying to women to get in, like pretending to be you're pretending to be a comprehensive health clinic. So in their view, if you don't offer abortion, then you're not a comprehensive health clinic. That's pretty much where they're coming from. So there's no deception at all in these clinics. Most of them belong to a national organization like Heartbeat or CareNet or NIFLA. And those organizations they have standards. And one of the biggest standards is that you don't lie to people. And there's a very practical reason for that, too. If you lie to somebody, you're not able to build trust. And these are relationships. Pregnancy help centers build relationships with women that last for years. And you can't have a relationship that's built on lies. So there is no deception, but this is what they're accused of. They're accused of using false advertising, of coercing women into choosing life, of giving false information about the risks of abortion. Once you get in there, you're lied to about abortion, and you're even lied to about how old your baby is. This is all what they say. And that they don't have professionals working there. They pretend to be medical, but they're not. That's everything that they're
doing. That's exactly everything they're doing in the abortion mills. It's so much projection, Cindy.
Well, that's exactly true. They are the ones that give misinformation. They are the ones that tell women this isn't really a baby or it's just a clump of cells. They don't allow women to see their ultrasound. Whereas in pregnancy help centers, most pregnancy help centers now have ultrasound, which is something new. 20 years ago, that was not true. Now it is. And they show the woman right there. They have a big screen so they can see the baby really well. And right on there is the age of the baby. It's calculated by the machine, not by a human. So they're not going to be telling any stories about how old your baby is. So anyway, I wanted to make this film. Sorry?
Go ahead, finish. I was just going to say, if you look at the problems of Planned Parenthood, right?
Yeah, I was really, Planned Parenthood is horrible. And, of course, there's all the other independent guys, too, out there. There's not just Planned Parenthood. But they all tell the same lies. They accuse us of telling lies. And I wanted to highlight the attack on pregnancy help centers that has really ramped up. And I also wanted to show what they really do. So that's really what we do in the film.
And so it's airing tonight and then Monday on EWTN. Where can they find it in general after the EWTN airing so they can go back and share it, Cynthia?
Eventually, not yet, but eventually it's going to be on our YouTube channel, which is called Shout My Story, because it's part of our Shout My Story project. But also, I would think it would be super duper awesome if people took this film and brought it to their church or the school that they're affiliated with to share. Because it's really amazing to me how many people, even Catholics, even people in the pro-life movement, they're a little fuzzy on what pregnancy help centers do. So when they are faced with an attack, they don't know how to answer because they're like, wow, what do you mean they lie? Wow, that sounds really bad. They don't know how to answer it. So this film is intended to be educational, informational, and also to empower people to answer the attacks. I am preparing, although it is not done yet, a fact sheet / study guide to go with it.
Good.
So that people have it written as well as visual. And so hopefully that'll be done in the very near future so I can attach it to the film. If somebody would like to show it in their church or in a school that they're affiliated with, they can always reach me at info@shoutmystory.org.
All right. Let me remind folks, Fake Clinics will air tonight, 10:30 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Television, and then Monday again, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, we're talking with Cynthia Morales, Executive Director of Pro-Life Champions, prolifechampions.com, on the mini-documentary Fake Clinics. This is super important. And Cindy, I love the idea of not only showing it in churches and schools, but why not show it in OCIA when they're talking about morality and when they're talking about the teachings, right, the core teachings of the church? Because think, as you just said, so many Catholics even are not sure what pregnancy resource centers do, what they're all about, and they may have been greatly influenced by the stories in the secular media and the politicians.
I agree. Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, it's going to be free. There's no license attached. It'll be able to be downloaded from YouTube if you can do that. I can give people links if they can't download it. And yeah, I mean, use it. I just want this to take off. I want people to see it. I want them to get educated, and I want them to be able to educate their neighbors.
So how is it? You said during the break we were chatting before you came on here live that it is taking off, and attorneys are very interested in it.
It is. So I a very good friend of mine who also has a podcast on EWTN, Mary Helen Fiorito. She is a lawyer, and she has shared it with some of her lawyer friends, and some of them are involved in cases that are going before the Supreme Court. So they're all like watching and are like, wow, this is really great. So I've gotten a lot of good feedback from the lawyers, and hopefully I'll get good feedback from other people as they see it as well. I want to go over some of the attacks. I don't have all of them, like the names, because I'm not a lawyer, but there have been a number of attacks in various states. I'm not sure about you're Michigan, where you are,
right.
But in Illinois, there have been a couple of laws that were passed to force abortion, pro-life pregnancy centers, rather, to share information with their clients on where to get an abortion. That was one of the big ones. Another one, and this is going before the Supreme Court in December, and this is a New Jersey case, is trying to force the pregnancy, a particular pregnancy center in New Jersey, to hand over all their donor information to the Attorney General. And when I first heard about that one, I was like, well, you have to tell your donors. If you're a 501c3, you have to, disclose your donors to the government. But actually, and then the more I thought about it, I realized, no, you have to disclose your large donors, anybody over 5,000. But so many people who give to pregnancy health centers, they're like, $100 here, $100. Right. They're the little people who make up the big work. And so this is intended to be, like chilling, like intimidating, to scare people, just like the law in Illinois, where you had to tell people where the abortions were. This, by the way, I believe that was enjoined, and I'm not sure. I think it was finally quashed. But all of these laws are designed to intimidate pregnancy health centers, to try to shut them down, to try to stop them working. And you might ask, well, why did they go after pregnancy health centers? If you're really about choice, like if you're really choice is good, wouldn't you want people to at least have the option to choose life?
Right.
Apparently not.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so phony, though, because they're the ones who are fake, as you mentioned earlier. Because if they really cared, as you said, about choice, because you go into a pregnancy resource center, and Doug Keck and I were talking about this because he was previewing the fact that your documentary is going to be on tonight in our segment. Okay, so you go into a pregnancy resource center, and they give you the information. Yes, you could have an abortion, but here's another option. Here's the other option you have. So they give you all the information, whereas if you go into an abortion mill, women are pressured to go there, first of all, and they don't give them all the information, and it's an absolute lie. And so it's the exact opposite of what's happening. What's happening in the abortion mills is what they're claiming, again, what's happening in these amazing pregnancy resource centers. And they do have, in many of the places, as you mentioned, medical assistants, especially with ultrasounds. And many of them even have doctors on staff. They may work part-time or nurses on staff, but they're to give them additional medical information.
Exactly. So one of the accusations is that pregnancy health centers pretend to be medical, but they're really not. In fact, I have seen, I don't remember where, the accusation that, little old church ladies were putting on white coats and pretending to be some sort of medical person when they're just little old church ladies. But that isn't true. Once upon a time, when pregnancy health centers first started back in the 70s, they really weren't medical. They were church ladies, and they weren't pretending to be anything but church ladies. Places like Birthright, for example, which is a very, very long-established pregnancy health center, a bunch of them all over the place, they were there to counsel women to choose life, and they would give assistance. One of the things pregnancy health centers have always done is give material assistance to women in crisis. Diapers, formula, clothing for their born children. This has always been true. But over the last 20 years, especially with the help of the Knights of Columbus, the majority of pregnancy health centers now offer ultrasounds, and they'll say right on their website, we offer limited medical medical assistance, such as ultrasounds, pregnancy tests. A lot of health centers now are doing sexually transmitted disease testing. They're trying to be like more holistic in their approach. So they do, but they don't. But what they do right on their websites, and this is required by all of these different national organizations. You list what you do on your website. Abortion is conspicuously absent, and most of them say right on their website, we do not offer abortions, nor do we refer for abortions. So there's no deception. Nobody's pretending to be anything. But again, I think from the pro-abortion side, if you don't offer abortion, that means you're not a legitimate clinic. That's the only service that makes you legitimate in their minds. Imagine if there was a bill, Teresa, the opposite bill. They pass a bill saying Planned Parenthood has to tell people where the pregnancy help centers are.
Well, you know what's funny about that, and you and I know this because we've been involved in the pro-life movement for a long time. I've had women tell me that when they've gone to Planned Parenthood and they decided not, or another abortion facility, they've decided not to have, abortion, and they ask them, well, where can I get support? What they really need, as you and I both know, is support. They need clothes, they need food, they need some sort of financial help. And what do? The abortion facilities do? They send them to the pregnancy resource centers. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. They're saying they're horrible, but then when women really need something and they need help, really grassroots help, where do they send them? They do send them to the pregnancy resource centers. They point
I've
to the place
actually never heard
of
them sending them for help, but I have heard them sending them for the ultrasound, because the pregnancy help centers...
the ones in Detroit where Dominic is a sidewalk counselor. He's had several women go in and receive support because they were told they could get diapers, they could get formula, they could get clothes, but because they don't want to spend the money on it because they're just the only thing they want to do is push abortion. Cindy, we're out of time. Thank you so much for this. This is so important. Cynthia Morales is the executive director of Pro-Life Champions. Okay, so it's airing tonight and Monday. Let me give you the times again. Fake Clinics mini documentary airing tonight at 10:30 Eastern on EWTN television, and then again on Monday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and then eventually it'll be available elsewhere. Correct, Cindy?
Yeah, it'll be on EWTN On Demand, and also you'll be able to get it from me if you want to show it at your church. Again, info@shoutmystory.org.
You're amazing. Thanks for this. Appreciate it. ProLifeChampions.com. Cindy is the executive director of Pro-Life Champions. Again, ProLifeChampions.com. We'll be right back on a Friday. Stay tuned. Almost 55 minutes past the hour. It's a Friday. It's October 31st, the last day of October. Oh my goodness, time flies. And we will continue our conversation on media, culture, young people in our second hour of Catholic Connection, which comes up on EWTN's Radio Extra. I pulled a clip from the beautiful talk that Erika Kirk, the wife of the slain conservative leader Charlie Kirk, gave. What's today? I think she gave it Wednesday. J.D. Vance was there. This was at Old Miss. You should have seen the crowd. If you do a search for the event, people were lined up hours before, and there was one shot that I saw. They were following the line of people, and it was snaking around the auditorium where the event was, and it was very rainy and a very, very bad day weather-wise. Anyhow, she made some very important comments about young people standing up for their faith and speaking truth and bowing to no one but the King of Kings. It's so well said. Speaking of which, someone who will carry on that theme will be our guest at 10:30. We'll have two segments with one of my good friends from our Veritas radio network on the East Coast. And Joe Reciniello has a new book all about how Catholic men will change America from the front line. Now, this ties in with, of course, the message of Charlie Kirk, who encouraged men to give up the crazy lifestyle, to get married, raise a family, and do what matters most. So I think it should be a good hour again this morning in the second hour of Catholic Connection. Just a reminder, Cindy's wonderful documentary will air this evening on EWTN television, as she mentioned and Doug mentioned earlier, 10:30 p.m. Eastern this evening, and then Monday, 11:30 a.m. It'll be also on EWTN Demand after that. If you can't watch it tonight, make sure you do and share it with as many people as possible. More Catholic Connection coming your way on a Friday, October 31st on EWTN's Radio Extra.
Welcome to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, keeping you connected to your faith and your world. Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness. And now, here's Teresa Tamio.
And it's a Friday in the second hour of CC with TT, this time on EWTN's Radio Extra channel. Great to be with you every day, Monday through Friday, as we talk about, as my dear late friend Al Cresta used to say, the things that matter most, and look at everything through the lenses of Scripture and the teachings of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic faith. Alrighty then, what's coming up this morning? Well, we are going to be giving you an update on all the news, some developing stories, the weather and whatnot, look at what's happening to help people in Jamaica and the other Caribbean islands hit by Melissa. We're also going to be sharing with you a beautiful clip, about 5 minutes or so, from Erika Kirk, the wife of Charlie Kirk. Of course, he was assassinated about 7 weeks ago. And there was a huge, massive crowd at Ole Miss earlier this week on Wednesday. The vice president was there. He was very close friends with Charlie Kirk. Erika was talking about young people and how they need to stand up for the country, stand up for what they believe. And it really ties into what we were talking about in the first hour of the program with the Holy Father telling young people this week, both Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, there's this Jubilee of Education going on in many groups in Rome, telling them you have to deal with reality, but you have to deal with it through the lens, as we just said, of the church. And you have to be in touch with people in person for real FaceTime. He said, don't get pulled away by the media. Not that the social media are bad, or not that media are bad, right? I mean, the Holy Father uses media. We all do. But that we understand the difference between what is being presented on some areas of media, which can be very damaging, or the reality of the situation in terms of the dignity of the human person and having FaceTime with those people. So we'll discuss this, and you'll hear from Erika Kirk and how she's encouraging young people to stand strong and to really be the next Charlie Kirks out there to make a difference. Speaking of which, we'll continue that discussion with a friend of mine from Catholic Radio, the Veritas Radio Network. Joe Reciniello has a beautiful book out called How Catholic Men Will Change America from the Front Line. It's endorsed by many EWTN personalities, so excited to have Joe on. They do a great job. They've Joe and Joe, two Joes who do a wonderful show, actually called From the Front Line with Joe and Joe on Veritas Radio. So we'll have two segments with Joe Reciniello talking about his book, Catholic Men Will Change America from the Front Line. Let's take a look at the forecast from the National Weather Service before we get to the news for you on a Friday morning. Gusty winds are expected from portions of the Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast, and this will be with us through the night, following the system that brought rain to the area. And we have an atmospheric river will move into the northwest. That'll happen later today into tomorrow morning, and that will bring moderate to heavy rainfall, mountain snow, windy conditions, and high surf to the area over the weekend. It is the eve of All Saints Day. Sunday is All Souls Day. Hope you have a great Halloween. Have some good, clean fun with your family. If you were listening in the first hour, I told you we have a little wonderful little Halloween party going on in our village here, and I'm so excited. The kids will be trick-or-treating door to door, and then we'll have a nice dinner in a little piazza in front of our church, and they're going to serve us wine and just be a nice, very family-friendly event, and really looking forward to it. But what I love about what they do here in Italy, they don't push the seasons. You didn't really start, as I said earlier, seeing Halloween decorations until the end of September, early October. And when do we see them in the States, right? 4th of July? Or maybe even sooner. And so, again, they don't push the seasons. They let people enjoy. And so I'll tell you all about that next week. Right now, though, almost 4 minutes past the hour. We have a ton of news to get through. So let's take a look at what's happening here on a Friday on EWTN's Radio Extra. Well, the FBI Director Kash Patel says a potential terror attack has been thwarted. In a post on X this morning, he said multiple suspects have been arrested in Michigan who were allegedly plotting a violent attack over this Halloween weekend. In other news, as we mentioned, giving you an update on the situation in the Caribbean after Hurricane Melissa, relief flights are arriving in Kingston, Montego Bay, and St. Mary, Jamaica, with American Airlines sending 2 737s from Miami to Kingston today, carrying team members and relief supplies, and they're bringing back customers wanting to get off the island. Here's the Consul General of Jamaica, Oliver Mayer.
We're going to need help, cash donations, to be able to buy building materials, building supplies, to repair the roofs, or to rebuild back total homes if necessary.
Food for the Poor, he says, already has 250 disaster kits on the ground in 12 of 14 parishes in the island nation. Meanwhile, with dozens of deaths blamed on Hurricane Melissa in the Caribbean, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, says the U.S. is prepared to help. He says the administration is in close contact with governments in the region with rescue and response teams at the ready, along with critical life-saving supplies. He specifically mentioned Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, the Bahamas, and Haiti, where most of the deaths have already been reported. Rubio, whose parents immigrated to the U.S. from Cuba, said storm relief to that island should be coordinated through non-governmental organizations. Orlando attorney Dan Newland is also pitching in. He's flying at least 3 plane loads of supplies to Kingston with the help of a reggae artist who joins the flight in Miami. Newland tells a local TV station, and there could be even more flights coming.
If the people are saying, Dan, can you bring more? Can you get more stuff? Then we will fly up, load up, and continue to make flights down.
He has previously partnered with reggae stars to help children's hospitals in Jamaica. He also plans to fly stranded American tourists back home as well. And flash floods, as Andrew Whitman tells us, are real-world realities across New York City and around the tri-state area thanks to yesterday's rainmaker of a storm.
Boonton, New Jersey got 3 inches of rain Thursday afternoon. Parts of New York City got an inch of rain just between 3 and 4 p.m. That caused flooding in basements, killing at least 2 in the city, as well as flooded subway and train lines and streets. FDNY had to rescue a woman from her flooded car in Carroll Gardens, Queens. 2 feet of flooding was reported at a school in the Riverdale section of the Bronx. Parts of Westchester were also hard hit.
Continuing the week-long series of events for the Jubilee of the World of Education, the Pope meeting with students in the Paul VI Audience Hall yesterday. He began his address by expressing his joy and anticipation for the event as it reminded him, he says, of the time he spent teaching math to young students. The Pope first recalling the example of the recently canonized Italian student Pier Giorgio Frassati and 2 of his mottos, to live without fear, to the heights. Pope Leo then added his own encouragement to the young students. He said, have the courage to live life to the fullest. He stressed they should not settle for fads, appearances, or fleeting pleasures, but rather the Holy Father challenged them to long for something greater. This is a desire of young people, he says, who hope and plan for a better society, urging them to strive toward the heights as a beacon of hope. And Academy District 20 in Colorado Springs, Colorado, reversing course and will now allow a Rampart High School senior to include a religious design in her reserved parking space. Sophia Shoemaker threatening legal action after her artwork featuring a shepherd, sheep, and a Bible verse rejected under old district rules.
No one explained to me why religious imagery wasn't allowed. Christianity and religion is just basically my whole personality, and I just kind of felt left out.
The district has since updated its policy to permit religious messaging, saying the change ensures fairness across all schools. Shoemaker's attorney argued the original decision violated her constitutional rights to free speech and religious expression. And the Conservative Political Action Conference, known as CPAC, launching an initiative to combat Christian persecution domestically and abroad, one of the main subjects at the heart of its latest summit in D.C. They hosted a summit on ending Christian persecution at the Kennedy Center yesterday. Catholic News Agency explaining as part of its wider effort to collaborate with its coalition partners, raising awareness and identifying policy solutions to religious targeting of Christians. They're saying as Catholics, we are all called to help those most in need, those who are facing persecution here and across the globe. Mercedes Schlapp, who's a senior fellow, telling CNA, CPAC and our coalition partners have made it a priority to start the Center for Faith and Liberty, committed to finding policy solutions, working with national and international leaders to bring awareness to the atrocities that we are seeing against our Christian brothers. She says we hope to continue in this fight and really provide protection and solutions to those persecuted Christians, to those who have died as martyrs, and to bring peace to our world, she added. And Vice President J.D. Vance says more delays and issues at airports will happen if the government remains closed. Speaking outside the White House yesterday, he said he's concerned about vital workers, such as air traffic controllers, missing paychecks and losing them possibly to another industry.
I worry about the people who are scanning our bags and making us get through the security line. I worry they're not getting paychecks. They're starting to get worried about how to feed their families and how to pay school tuition and everything else.
The vice president calling on Democrats to come to the table to end the shutdown. He said Republicans are ready to negotiate on any issue they're concerned about. The shutdown is in day 31. His comments coming as the FAA issued a ground delay at Reagan National yesterday due to staffing shortages. This as lawmakers are attempting to fly out for the weekend. And the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is rejecting Governor Pritzker's request to suspend federal immigration enforcement operations in the Windy City this weekend. Noem saying they aren't pausing any work they do to keep communities safe.
The fact that Governor Pritzker is asking for that is shameful, and I think unfortunate that he doesn't recognize how important the work is that we do to make sure we're bringing criminals to justice.
Pritzker making the plea in a letter sent to Noem saying Illinois families deserve to spend Halloween weekend without fear. The letter follows reports that federal agents deployed tear gas during a children's parade this past weekend on the northwest side of Chicago. Daniel Martindale tells us LA firefighters reportedly ordered to leave the scene of the smaller brush fire that later reignited into the Palisades fire.
That's despite complaining that the ground was still smoldering and rocks were still hot to the touch. This is according to the LA Times after reviewing firefighters' text messages from January. The 8-acre Lackman fire started on the morning of January 1st. After the fire was declared contained the next day, firefighters were told by their battalion chief to pack up and leave the area. The remnants of the fire turned into the massive Palisades fire during a major Santa Ana wind event on January 7th. Thousands of homes were destroyed and 12 people died. I'm Daniel Martindale.
And California's energy policy is apparently raising some concerns for national security, with a new report calling them a clear and present threat. The report, detailed in the California Globe, indicating the state's strict regulations on oil and gas production jeopardize military readiness along the West Coast. California is producing less than 25% of its own petroleum while importing over 65%. And the report says a lack of domestic refining capacity could lead to fuel shortages for military bases during conflicts. And a gambling investigation has rocked the NBA, and it will likely have a ripple effect in the state of Texas, where there's a debate about now legalizing sports betting.
The lieutenant governor believes that the costs of gambling far outweigh the benefits, and things like this NBA scandal just reinforce his belief that he is fighting the right fight.
That's Rice University professor Mark Jones, who has run polling on gambling. His latest finding that 60% support for legalized online sports betting, but he thinks that will now plummet over concerns of corruption. And Prince Andrew is being stripped of his title and will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Buckingham Palace made the announcement yesterday. The palace also said a formal notice had been served for Andrew to leave his home at the Royal Lodge close to Windsor Castle. The changes come as the royals face growing pressure over the ties to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The statement from Buckingham Palace noting the censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. And finally, in our news segment on a Friday morning this Halloween, keeping trick-or-treating little pedestrians safe is always challenging, but holding Halloween on a Friday makes it especially hazardous. Dr. Patrick Mulroney with Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in Florida says children are competing for street space with grown-ups.
We're going to have families with young kids who are out, attempting to trick or treat, while we have other people who are using those same roads to get to parties or other events.
Today is also a high school football night in many areas, and he also says drivers need to stay well below the speed limit in residential areas this evening, and he's reminding parents to add reflective tape to their children's costumes or some kind of illumination, such as glow bracelets. It's a Friday, 2 cents coming up, some beautiful words of encouragement for our young people and for the country from Erika Kirk during a huge gathering at Ole Miss earlier this week. Stay tuned. It's a Friday. It's October 31st, 2025. Great to be with you on EWTN's second hour of Catholic Connection on EWTN's Radio Extra. Coming up after our 2 cents segment, we are going to check in with another radio person from EWTN Radio, one of our affiliates from Veritas Radio Network on the East Coast. That would be my friend Joe Reciniello from the program Joe and Joe. And one of the Joes, Joe Reciniello, has a new book. His book is Catholic Men Will Change America. from the front line. And so we'll discuss what Catholic men can do and are doing to make a difference. And what's interesting is this ties in directly with our 2 cent segment this morning, because Charlie Kirk, if you remember, could have been, from what I understand, there's a lot of discussion, haven't had that confirmed yet, but apparently he may have been thinking or praying and discerning coming into the Catholic Church, because his wife Erika is Catholic. And he also, if you remember, was talking an awful lot about the Blessed Mother, Mary, and encouraging evangelical Christians to rethink Mary and not to dismiss her as merely just a conduit for the incarnation. And so there was a lot going on with him, a very deep young man who did a lot of studying. He was self-study, but I think one of the biggest things that he was all about was family and marriage, and of course truth with a capital T, as in Jesus Christ. And there was this beautiful clip of him, I don't know if you saw it, right before he died, about 2 weeks before he was shot. He was a guest host on one of the Sunday morning shows with Rachel Campostuffy on Fox News. And there was this little clip going around of his daughter, his beautiful little daughter, during the break, one of the news breaks. She runs up to him on set, and he jumps in her arms. Daddy, Daddy. She jumps in his arms. Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And he said, isn't it the best? So he put that out on Twitter or on X and all of his social media outlets, and he said, this is the best. Doesn't get any better than this. For guys out there, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, quit the partying, quit doing irresponsible things, get married, have a family, be a man. And he stood up for family. He stood up for marriage. And it's really powerful if you think about the fact that he was taken all too soon from us 7 weeks ago at a campus event in Utah, assassinated. 7 weeks later, the enthusiasm, even though the secular media are not covering as much, big stories like that tend to move. They'll be, covered heavily for a while, then the news cycle goes on, and they still talk about him, but not as much as they used to. But Turning Point USA has exploded. It was very popular prior to his death, but it continues to grow, and there's no less enthusiasm on college campuses across the country. As a matter of fact, that's growing as well. If you saw any of the video from the event at Ole Miss, which featured Erika Kirk and J.D. Vance, our vice president, who was close friends with Charlie, the line outside was incredible. And it was not a pretty day Wednesday. There was a lot of rain and a lot of wind, and the kids were covered up. They had rain jackets on. And a photographer, a videographer from one of the networks, I think it might have been Fox News, or maybe it was just a B-roll they were airing from Turning Point, but they followed the people waiting in line. From the entrance to the auditorium, they went down the line, and it kept going and going and going and going and snaked all the way around the auditorium. So obviously there's still a great deal of enthusiasm, even more so for the great work of Charlie Kirk. And so Erika Kirk, along the lines of what the Holy Father was talking about this week with young people, reminded the young people that they needed to be not afraid, to stand up for truth and family, and to be leaders. Take a listen.
But deeper than that, this is about your soul, because the fight for freedom starts within, inside of each and every one of you. So again, please stand firm against the wickedness of the devil and the schemes of man. Be alert, because his tactics are so clever. What he'll do is he will find one thing. He will find fear, he'll find disappointment, he will find one thing, and he will wedge it in between you and the Lord, and he will make it grow. He will make it grow so much that you lose sight. It becomes this, almost like an eclipse, where the truth is hidden behind it. And yes, the light's still there, but you can't see it anymore. That's the enemy's tactic. And the bottom line is that the enemy doesn't need to change your theology. He just needs to change your vision. And if he can get in your head and blur your vision and distort your vision, he'll do it. He'll do whatever he can. But what the enemy forgets, though, is that the presence of a shadow is proof that there is light. He forgets that. And Charlie's murder might seem like we're standing in a shadow, as if death was the victory meant for the enemy, but looking around in this arena, You are proof that this light of truth burns so brightly. So brightly.
Number 1, worst fruit for your waistline.
The Lord is calling you to rise. Please hear me when I say that courageously. He is. Do not be afraid. It is so easy to be afraid, but we are commanded to not be afraid. And when you take that stand, it will encourage and inspire someone else to do the same. Whether that is someone in your circle, whether that's a family member, whether that's someone you never even met before because they saw you posting something on social media. You can't change a nation if you're enslaved to fear. And you can't call out corruption if you're still chained to comfort. And you can't stand for truth if you first do not kneel before the Lord. And I know I keep saying it, but I'm trying to drive home a point with you all being labeled as the courageous generation, because this generation will decide if America remembers who she is or if she'll forget. And I believe with all my heart that God placed you here now in Ole Miss, not by accident, but by assignment. There is no mistake that you are here in this stadium and arena today. No mistake. God doesn't make mistakes. Doesn't make mistakes. And when being on this campus, I think of 18-year-old Charlie, who would always say, you know, when I started this, I had no money, no connections, and I had no idea what I was doing. But what he did know what he was doing is that he was obeying the Lord. He was obeying what the Lord had placed inside of his heart to fight for. He did. And he persevered. He persevered, and look what he left us. Look what he left us with. He didn't leave us empty-handed. He built a machine, and all of you are a part of that. Again, the heartbeat of Turning Point USA. That's what happens when you obey the Lord. A movement like this, it becomes unstoppable. It becomes the revival that it is. And I just want this to be the generation that says, we will not apologize for loving our country first. We will not be silent about our faith. We will not back down when the world tells us to kneel, because we bow only to the King of Kings.
Amen. Preach it, sister. We bow only to the King of Kings. You can't stand unless you first kneel before the Lord, and the presence of his shadow is proof that there is light. Wow. Great words of wisdom from Erika Kirk. We'll continue this discussion along the same lines with our next guest regarding Catholic men and how they can change America. Stay tuned. Great to catch up with a fellow radio host. Joe Reciniello is from Veritas Radio. The show is Joe and Joe, and this particular Joe, no ordinary Joe, has just released a book, Catholic Men Will Change America, from the front lines. And Joe, great to have you on the program. Congratulations on the book. So you have always been outspoken on your program, very strong in the faith. What prompted you to put down some of your thoughts and concerns into a book? I'm glad you did, but what prompted that? Thanks for joining us.
It's an interesting question. It's kind of weird to say. It was through fasting. I basically started to fast more. And I've always read Scripture. I read the Magnificat every morning over coffee. Right. That's been my practice for some time. And it was through fasting that it came. It was like an inspiration in my head that basically said, you know something, you should write down what you're thinking about after you read the Scripture in the morning. And that's where it started. And from it, I've been doing this now since August of 2024. I have over 400 reflections. I do a page a day before I go to work. And there it is. There was the book.
Wow. But the concentration is on really helping Catholic men be who they're called to be, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I am not an academic. I'm a very regular person. I mean, I'm educated, but I'm a father of 5, and it basically I want to just demonstrate that if I could do it, anyone could do it. Reading the Scripture every day, the Magnificat, is not that time consuming, and living a sacramental life also is not that time consuming. Basic things: pray the rosary every day, take your family to church, go to confession regularly. These are first principles, and I think if men just focused on first principles, great things would happen, starting in the family, and then it would circle outward. I think America needs men, particularly Catholic men, to lead that charge. I think the church in that particular sector in America, focusing on men, it's weak. Mostly women are leading the charge, and we have to step up.
Why do you think it is that mostly women are leading the charge? What's happened, do you think, over the years?
You know, I think that it's been feminized, the church, in the sense that, like, men don't understand that it's masculine to be a man of God. I mean, I actually believe that. Like the rosary, when someone thinks of the rosary, they think of an old lady. No, the rosary is for everyone, particularly the family. But men have to be the priest of their home. I mean, this is that's actually biblical. I mean, we have to be the priest of our home. And if you look at statistics, when men are that priest in the home, the children follow. I think it's like 70% of the time when a man is the leader of their faith in the home, the children continue practicing the faith. That's not dogmatic statistics, that's sociological statistics. And I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I have 5 children, and obviously I want what's best for my children. What's best for my children is Christ and and the church. I want them to practice the faith. They're not always going to be in my house. Soon, you know, they're going to be on their own. They're going to be making decisions, and I have to form those decisions now.
Talking with author, speaker, and radio host Joe Reciniello. His new book is Catholic Men Will Change America, Advent Reflections from the Front Line. It's a paperback book. You can find it on Amazon. Advent Reflections, can you believe we're almost into that season already? This is super important to have a resource, I think, Joe, for men to use during the Advent season.
100%. I mean, I think we focus a lot on Lent, and we should, but Advent is a mini Lent. It's a time to prepare for the coming of Christ, his birth. And it's a time to fast. It's a time to pray more, just like we do at Lent. And that's a practice that I've always done. Before I was married, I used to actually travel because, I mean, I'm a professional. I had some disposable income. I used to travel to Calcutta for 3 weeks. I would spend time with Mother Teresa's sisters, and I would work with them. Obviously, now I can't do that because I have children and a wife. But my wife and I take Advent very seriously. We fast, and, you know, fasting doesn't have to be something that's like so super harsh. It could be just a little something that pinches. You could increase your prayer life. You could go to daily mass if you don't usually go to daily mass. It helps you prepare for Christmas. And I'll tell you, it's interesting when I'll just go back to like when I would go to India. I mean, obviously, first of all, India's not a Christian nation, so Christmas is there, but it's not a focus. I live near New York. It's so like commercialized. Like when I go through Port Authority, when I go into work, you got the lights, you got everything. And when I would come back from India, it would be like completely the opposite. And then I'd land in JFK Airport, and I'd just be like, oh my gosh, it's Christmas. You know what I mean? Like we forget that Christmas is about Christ. It's not about the material. And we have to, I think, because we live in America, God bless America, thank God we do, but we have to increase our focus, and that's why we have to take Advent seriously.
Well, I think, and if you can start by taking Advent seriously with these reflections, doesn't that get you in that, frame of mind, Joe, to continue with that kind of a practice, do you think?
You know, that's a great point, and that's like, I think, Advent and Lent. I think sometimes when we do something, like, for instance, read a reflection, which is one page, takes 2 minutes, those are habit-forming, like, processes. That's what Lent is about. That's what Advent's about. And you make a great point, Teresa. After you establish a habit, you continue it. It only helps your life, it helps your family life, and it helps your spiritual life.
I love the Magnificat. I use it every single day. Of course, Dom is a deacon, and he uses the Liturgy of the Hours. He has to pray the hours. But I think the Magnificat, and I'd love your take on this, is kind of like a miniature Liturgy of the Hours, don't you think? Because the way it's broken up.
Absolutely. You have everything in there. You have the Psalms, you have the readings, and what I like, because I've actually thought about going to the Liturgy of the Hours. I don't know how to do it. You have to figure it out with all those, like, flags and
the
like
page turners.
I don't understand it. I'd have to like read.
Well, they do have apps for it now, which helps, but it can be a little bit confusing at times.
But what I like about the Magnificat is it has the saints. Every day it gives you a couple saints, and I've learned so much about. I mean, obviously we all know about the big saints, but all types of saints. You know, people from all over the world. And that's another thing that basically has educated me from that. I think it's a great periodical, and it's very reasonably priced.
No, I love the Magnificat, and they have artwork in there, and their articles are great. They have wonderful reflections from different people every month, and they have a conversion story, of the month. We're talking with author Joe Reciniello, who also is a host on Veritas Catholic Radio. His book is out now, and it's been out for a little while. Catholic Men Will Change America: Advent Reflections from the Front Line. Before we take a break, I just want to read at least one of your endorsements, but many of the endorsements come from EWTN folks, including our very own Mike Aquilina. He says, I'm a frequent guest on Joe's radio show. I know this much. An hour now and then is not enough for conversation with the guy. It seems like we're just getting started, and then we're out of time. That's why I'm so happy about this book. It's an easy way to keep the conversation going and talk with Joe while talking with God. All about the most important things, from our friend Mike Aquilina, EWTN host and best-selling author. We'll be right back. More with Joe from Joe and Joe on Veritas Radio. Stay tuned. Catholic Men Will Change America: Advent Reflections from the Front Line. Our friend Joe Reciniello is with us this morning. And again, he has great endorsements for this new book. We mentioned Mike Aquilina. Also, how about Bear Wozniak? Joe Reciniello's reflections share the common sense of a man who lives a deeply spiritual life in the midst of everyman challenges, and the upward yearning of a soul in love with and sold out to God. His reflections give you traction and give you no excuses. As we say in the surf in Hawaii, don't be a poser. He dares us to get real with God. And of course, Bear is a radio host from EWTN and a world champion surfer. Also, my friend Joseph Pierce endorsing in as well. Joe knows that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He knows the way and shows it to us. He tells the truth, and he tells it like it is. No nonsense, common sense, uncommon wisdom. A man alive, fully alive in the life of Christ. You've got some amazing endorsements here, Joe.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've been very blessed, to be honest with you, with our radio show. To me, even, you too, to meet wonderful people. It's funny, like, over the years, we've been doing the radio show now for 4 years. Like, sometimes we'll talk to someone like a theologian from like Gregorian or something in Rome. And I even say to these people, like, why are you talking to me? I can't even believe I'm talking to this person. Like, honestly, there's been times like we just interviewed Cardinal Ouellette.
I love him from Toronto.
Such a nice
He's
man.
Amazing. Yeah.
But I mean, I can't believe I'm talking to some of these people. It's been quite a ride, and I've met some wonderful people. And as my co-host basically always says, and he's right, Joe Pasillo, we learn as much as our audience. I mean, when you talk to people like that, I learn just as much as they do. I mean, there's so much about our faith to know. And, I think that's one of the things about our show, because we talk to mostly authors. We basically bring something to the average person that they may not know, or maybe spark an interest where they'll say, I'm going to buy that book. And there you go.
But I think it's our faith, as you said. It's like this endlessly deep well, and it is amazing. And I love what I do too. I love interviewing all kinds of people, as you know, and it's a joy. You get to learn about your faith. I mean, we could never, I don't care how long we study the faith, if we had 10 lifetimes, I think we would just be scratching the surface. And it is awesome what God will do with your yes. And that's why you've got the book, and that's why your show is doing so well on Veritas. So let's get back to the book a little bit in terms of, for whom you wrote it. Is there an age group you had in mind, or any Catholic man who really wants to get closer to the Lord? What do you think?
I think it's for anybody, to be truthful with you, because I position myself as the regular man. That's basically what our show is about. I think it's anybody. You could be new to the faith, or you could be somebody who's been in the faith and is very prayerful and, frankly, very spiritually, I would almost say, close to God, because these reflections come from my heart. Like, this is not like an academic pursuit. And it's also, they come through experiences that I've had working with the Missionaries of Charity in the streets of New York, experiences I've had with regular people who struggle, my own struggles. This is not, again, it's not some like esoteric idea. And when you boil that down, all people have that at their core. All of us are searching for something. And I also think people, it resonates with people, and at least I've noticed this, and I'm sure you have too, because you've been on the radio and you understand people as I do. I think it comes with us being Italian, to be honest with you, but that's another conversation. But I think, to be truthful with you, it resonates with people when you're honest.
Right, when you're sincere.
From the heart.
When you're sincere, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, people could appreciate that, no matter where they are in life, no matter who they are. And that's what this book is about. And I think it's very clear when people read it that comes off.
Mm-hmm. Now, you say the front lines. You're talking about the front lines of life, as we're discussing right now, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Christ meets us where we are, whether, you are a professional person, whether you're a blue-collar worker, whether you're single, whether you're a priest, whether you're a married couple. He meets us where we are, and that is the front line. And while priests have a role, obviously they have a big role, but the laity has a role, and that's what our show is about, and that's what the book addresses.
Yeah, it's a great resource. So talking with Joe Reciniello, his book is Catholic Men Will Change America, Advent Reflections from the Front Line. And boy, what a great time to promote this, because Advent is, it's going to be soon upon us, and of course the Christmas season as well. Would you like to see this? And this just popped into my head, probably the Holy Spirit, because I'm not that smart, but I would love to see this in a men's group. Do you think it would work for that as well? Well,
it's funny you say that. Michael Garino, who is a good friend of mine, he lives in the Tampa area. He recently organized a massive rally in an arena in Tampa, and he ordered 100 of the books. Wow. So ideally, I think that would be a good venue for it. I think men should meet regularly, and they should pray together. We have to build community. That's something, again, I think our church could work on. The evangelical church is much better at that than we are. I mean, there are good churches that do that, Catholic churches. I don't want to paint a wide, stroke. But We need community, and it's particularly men. It doesn't have to be like a big thing. It could be Saturday morning, you have a cup of coffee, you sit down, and maybe you read the scripture, or you just talk about something, a book. That is helpful, because ultimately you have to know in this life that you're not alone.
Right.
Because it's hard to live your faith on the front line, in the real world. Let's be honest. And you need to know that people stand with you. And I think men need that more than ever.
I think with the reflections, it makes it easy for a men's group, because you could read the reflections and then just, say, hey, what do you think about this? And go around the room, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Basically you read it and then people just discuss it, basically speak from their heart. Does that resonate with you? Again, I'm not an academic. I don't pretend like I am. I always say I went to school in Jersey City like your mother, Teresa. I went to Harvard on the Hudson. That's how I always...
Harvard on the Hudson.
So, I mean, that's where it comes from. It comes from the heart. And frankly, a lot of the greatest saints were very regular people. Like, obviously, you have the big saints like Bonaventure and Augustine and Aquinas. They were brilliant people. But a lot of them were just normal people. St. Joseph, very normal person. St. Francis, very normal person. I think people have to think in those terms. I think the faith has to be boiled down to its essence. First principles. We have to get back to first principles. These are things we can control. There's so much we can't control. I mean, you're in Catholic, social media, so am I, and obviously I have my finger on the pulse of that. When you sometimes look at these exchanges, people are arguing about things we have no control about.
Right.
None.
Right.
I don't even get involved. But I say to myself, why are we focusing on what we can't control? Focus on what you can. What you can do is pray the rosary. Go to confession regularly. Go to Mass regularly. If you just touch on those things and do them consistently, read the scripture every day, go to adoration once a week, you will be transformed. And in that transformation, you'll transform your family and you will transform your community.
Yep. And it starts with the individual. And that's why I think we were talking during the break earlier that Charlie Kirk's death had such an impact on people. He talked right before he died. He was a guest host on Fox News, if you remember, on Sunday. And his little daughter came running in during the break, and Daddy, Daddy, Daddy jumped in his lap. And then he put out a tweet or a post on X that said, this is the best. This is what life is all about. Get back to the basics. Have a family. Get married. Have a family. Pray. Be a man. And the basic stuff we've gotten so far away from, Joe.
I agree. Charlie Kirk, to be honest with you, was the best of us. He married a Catholic. I think that was providential, and probably because he was a young man, God was moving him forward. I mean, a lot of times that happens, that one spouse moves another one forward, in whether it's the man or the woman, for that matter. But he was the best of us. That tragedy was a blow to us all, in plain English. It says a lot about where we are as a country. How could you don't have to agree with him on everything. How could you vilify such a person? What's good is bad, and what's bad is good. And that's why we, as Catholics, have to recognize things as they are and face them. And nothing is better than practicing your faith. That's the answer. I mean, everyone's looking for political... That's not the answer.
Right.
The answer is sanctification. We have to sanctify society. And if you ask me, Catholics, we have all the tools to do that. We have the sacraments. We have everything. We have Our Lady. Are we using them?
Well, and I think it starts with us. I mean, and the thing is that when you get to heaven, God willing, you get to the pearly gates, the Lord is not going to say, wow, what about that politician, or what about that priest, or what about that bishop? He's going to say, what did you do with what I
100%.
gave you, right? In terms of the great tools that we have in the faith, there's so much available, this deep, endless, bottomless well, beautiful well of faith and love and truth, and we barely even dip our toes in. And I look at it and I think, I've been on the air now with this show for almost 23 years, and I think about all that I still have to learn in addition to, all the people that you and I interview on a regular basis. I'm still learning, Joe. You never stop learning. And if we would just get back to that, as you said, we could, as you mentioned in the headline, in your, title, change the world, change America.
People think, again, getting back to the Magnificat, saints change the world. Pope Benedict said that. In fact, he said they're the only people that change the world. They're the real movers and shakers. Do we aspire to be a saint? Even if it's not a saint with a capital S, a lowercase s, that means you go to heaven. That's all that means. But holy people change things. When you encounter a holy person, I mean a legitimately holy person, you never forget that person. Whether they were a nun, a priest, or frankly, a lay person, you'll never forget that person. If we only aspired to be that person, if we aspired for our children to be those type of people, and that is available only through grace. Because high-achieving people, and that's great. It's good to be a high-achieving person. But what is the primary focus of your life?
Right.
We can't self-manufacture a holy life. It's grace, but we have to avail ourselves to it. If that is our driving motivation, we will shake the foundations of the world, as the saints did. They were regular people. Look at who Jesus picked. They were smelly fishermen. They were. And look what they did.
Right.
Why?
Without social media, right? Without Catholic radio, without, all this stuff. Joe, we're out of time, but listen, God bless you for doing this book. You're a treasure, and so glad that we've gotten to know each other over the years. You can get the book on Amazon. And again, let me give you the title. It's Catholic Men Will Change America, Advent Reflections from the Front Line. What a great thing to get, especially now. Right now would be a great time to get it. Again, Joe Reciniello. His name is spelled Reciniello. And he went to school in Jersey City, New Jersey, where I was born. Yeah, I'm a Jersey girl. You got that right. You can take the girl out of Jersey, but you can't take the Jersey out of the girl or the guy. Right, Joe?
Love it.
All right, my friend. Great to talk to you, and hopefully we'll have you back on again soon. Again, get the book. Get the book for the man in your life. Catholic Men Will Change America, Advent Reflections from the Front Line. Stay tuned. I was telling Richard during the break that Joe sounds just like all my relatives in Jersey with that accent. I just love it, that strong East Coast accent. Very charming. He's a dynamo, and he's so faithful. And I love the fact that he's just someone who is taking his faith seriously in his life and wants to share it with other people. It's not that complicated. We make it so complicated. So a great book to have from our friend Joe Reciniello. Okay. Coming up on Monday, my little sister from Another Mister, as I always say, Vanessa Denhagarmo from Epiphany Communications, will be joining you as your host on Monday. And also Tuesday. Wednesday, I'll be back with you. And then Thursday, V will be back because I start taping the second EWTN Mission Advancement Learn series on the Saints of Italy. This one in particular, Saint Francis of Assisi. We're calling it the Unknown Francis. And we're going to places with which people are probably not that familiar. That's the whole point, because he traveled so many areas, not just Assisi and not just Rome. He went to Rome to get approval for the Franciscans Minor. But he went all the way over to Laverna in Tuscany. He went all the way down to St. Michael's Cave. He went all over Umbria. Now we're sticking with Umbria because it would take forever to go all these different places, and he went in Italy. But even in Umbria, in our region, in central Italy, a lot of people don't know that he went to Gubbio, or the town of Greccio, or Spoleto, or built a hermitage on top of Mount Sabasio. So all these different places, again, that are not that familiar to most pilgrims, are going to be sharing with you when we start taping on Monday. And we wrap up on Thursday. Vanessa will be in along with Matt Swaim and Gail Buckley and all kinds of good stuff on a Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Halloween. Be safe and keep Christ at the center of everything. Talk to you soon.